And Yegev's family does not have day-to-day routine. They cannot sleep, they cannot eat. It's like nightmare every day.
My name is Moshe Leinberg. My wife is Gabriela Leinberg. My daughter is Mia Leinberg. On the 6th of October last year, they went to an event. My wife's niece's daughter celebrated her second birthday in Beersheba. And that evening, instead of coming home, they decided to go with my sister-in-law and my sister-in-law's life partner and my brother-in-law to my sister-in-law's kibbutz, which is about 4 kilometers from Gaza, kibbutz near Yitzchak. And the next morning was when the intruders arrived, armed. They broke into the house. They forced open the door to the safe room. They fired bullets into the safe room door and into the safe room. My brother-in-law felt the heat of the bullet graze his arm. They were forcibly removed under horrifying conditions from the safe room, from the house. My wife and daughter were put in the back of a pickup truck and driven out of the kibbutz by a driver who was high on drugs. He passed very closely by some burning cars. They could feel the heat. They went outside of the kibbutz. There's security camera footage of them being, my daughter and my wife being taken out of the kibbutz. What we didn't know until later was that the driver pulled out of the kibbutz, made a left, and rode along the fence, the external fence of the kibbutz. My sister-in-law's house is not far from that fence. And that's where they picked up the remaining 3, my sister-in-law Clara, my sister-in-law's life partner Luis, who's 70, and my brother-in-law Fernando, who just turned 61 2 days ago. And they drove them into Gaza. They marched them through a tunnel. They came out of the tunnel, and from there they were taken to their destination where they were held. My wife and daughter and sister-in-law were released on day 53. We were all greatly surprised to see that my daughter had taken the dog with her. And she came out with the dog. I would assume that most, if not all of you, have seen those pictures and clips. They came home, but there's still a part of them there. They're not the same, and they never will be. My brother-in-law, Fernando, and my sister-in-law's life partner, Luis, they're still there. All we know is that initially they were told that they would all be released together, and then at the last second, they separated the women and took them out. We don't know what condition they're in since then. It's been 44 days. They desperately need help. They need to be released. Luis is not a well man. He needs his medications. Fernando has been losing weight. And just a couple of words about both of them. Fernando is a bachelor, but he loves his 3 nieces dearly, and he's always there for everybody, for his friends, for his family. We had a little bit of an incident years ago. My wife had a visitor who came from Argentina, and they drove down to the Dead Sea. I don't drive. And my wife dehydrated, and she had to be taken to the hospital. And the car was left there. My brother-in-law, without saying a word, told his boss in the middle of a work day, I have to go. Got into his car. He lives in the Kfar Saba area, which is the center of Israel. He drove up to Jerusalem. He parked his car, front of our house, took a bus to the Jerusalem Central Bus Station, took another inner city bus from there, rode down to the Dead Sea, about a 2.5 hour ride. He got into our car and brought it back without saying anything. This is the kind of person Fernando is. He's kind, he's generous. Everybody that knows him loves him. He likes to travel. He's not a violent person. He's just the opposite. And Luis, he's 70 years old. He has 4 children from his first marriage. He has 10 grandchildren. They all love and miss him. He's always there. He loves to dance. He's a very cheerful person. And these are the people that were just taken. These are the people that are the most peaceful, loving people, kind people you'd ever care to meet. And you can hear from the rest of the stories from the other family members that it's the same thing with their family members. There's absolutely no reason for what happened. This was completely random, and the scary thing about it is it could happen anywhere else in the world at any time under slightly different circumstances. So we need the world not to forget that these people are still there. This is still a humanitarian crisis. So whoever can help, we need your help. Thank you.
Now I invite Danny Milan. On his request, I will translate his words to English. Every word.
לפני שאני מתחיל, אני רוצה להגיד לכם שלזקנים נותנים לדבר בסוף.
Before I start, I just want to say that the old people get to talk last.
ונתחיל.
I'll start.
מדי לילה, כשאנחנו הולכים לישון, אף אחד לא יודע איזה השכמה תהיה לו.
Every night when we go to sleep, no one knows how he will waken up.
זה מה שהיה לי ב7 באוקטובר בבוקר.
That's what happened to me on October 7th morning.
ההפתעה הכי קשה והכי טראומטית הייתה ב7 לחודש.
The worst surprise, the trauma, was on October 7th.
הפעלתי את הטלוויזיה בבית בסביבות השעה 6:40.
I turned on the TV set in my home at around 6:40.
והיה צבע אדום ברצועת עזה, בעוטף עזה.
And there was red alert, sirens in the communities close in the south part of Israel, next to the Gaza Strip.
אנחנו אומרים עוטף עזה, אבל זה לא עוטף עזה, זה עוטף ישראל. כי היישובים האלה בעצם הגנו על כל ישראל.
The Hebrew term for those communities are Otef Aza, which means Aza's envelope. But it's actually those communities are the ones defending Israel.
ואז ראיתי שיש צבע אדום, והבן שלי גר בנחל עוז, אני גר ביסוד המעלה, בצד השני של המדינה, מרחק 4.5-5 שעות נסיעה.
And then I heard that there was a red alert, sirens. My son lives in Nahal Oz, which is a kibbutz in the south. And Danny lives in Yesod Amala, which is a kibbutz in the north part of Israel. Sorry. Moshava, which is a community in the north part of Israel. It's around 4.5-5 hours drive from one another.
שמעתי שיש צבע אדום, טלפנתי לבן שלי.
I heard that there was a red alert siren, and I called my son.
כמו כל פעם, שאלתי אותו מה קורה, לכן אני שומע שיש צבע אדום.
And I asked him, as I do every time, what's going on? I heard that there is a red alert siren.
ואז הוא אומר לי, לא קרה, מה אתה מתרגש? כל פעם אתה מתרגש מכמה טילים שיורדים פה.
He said, nothing happened. You're always getting very excited about some rockets that are being fired here.
סגרנו טלפונים, והכל בסדר כביכול.
He hanged up, and apparently everything was okay.
אני ממשיך להסתכל בטלוויזיה, ורואה שהמחבלים חוזרים לכל הקיבוצים בסביבה, והורגים כל מה שנקרא על דרכם.
I continue watching TV, and I see that the terrorists are infiltrating all the communities, the kibbutzim in this area, and they are killing and murdering everything they see, everyone they see.
ילדים, נשים, זקנים, סבים, סבתות, בעלי החיים, הכל להרוג.
Children, women, men, the elderly, grandparents, animals, everything, just to kill.
ואז אני שוב מתקשר לעומרי, ואומר לו, עומרי, מה קורה? והוא אומר לי, הכנסתי את האישה ואת הילדות לממ"ד, יצאתי לקחת 2 סכיני מטבח, שיהיה לי משהו בידיים.
And I called my son Omri again and I asked him what's going on, and he said, I just put my wife and my daughters in the safe room, and I went to the kitchen to get 2 knives so I have something to defend myself with.
ואז הוא אומר לי, אבא, אל תטלפן יותר, אנחנו נתכתב בוואטסאפ, כי יש שקט שלא ישמעו אותנו דרך החלון.
And he then told me, don't call me again because we want to keep the house quiet. Just text me on the WhatsApp so no one will hear the phone calls.
ב-10:20 קיבלתי ממנו את ההודעה האחרונה שהם עדיין בממ"ד.
10:20 a.m. I received the last message from him that they are still in the safe room.
להודעה הבאה שלי כבר לא קיבלתי תשובה.
My next message did not get a reply.
מה הייתם חושבים במקומי?
What would you have thought in my place?
מישהו יכול להגיד, לתאר?
Can someone imagine or say anything?
אז אני אספר לכם.
So I'll tell you.
באותו רגע חשבתי שהרגו לי את הילד, את הנכדות ואת אשתו.
At that moment I thought that they killed my son, my granddaughters, and the wife, my daughter-in-law.
וככה ישבתי משעה 11 עד שעה 6:30, כאשר האימא של אשתו התקשרה אליי. היא גרה בסדרות שגם שם מסתובבים מחבלים ויורים. היא התקשרה והודיעה לי שעומרי נחטף ולישי והבנות בסדר.
And that's how I felt until 6 p.m. when my in-laws, my daughter-in-law's mother called me and told me that Omri was kidnapped and that my daughter-in-law and my granddaughters are okay.
זה אחת ההודעות המשמחות ביותר שהיו לי בחיים.
This is one of the happiest announcements I received in my life.
מצד אחד, חטפו את הבן שלי לעזה, זה דקירת סכין בלב.
On one side, my son was kidnapped to Gaza. It's like getting your heart stabbed by a knife.
אבל כולי תקווה שהוא נלקח שלם, חי ובריא, ויחזור חי שלם ובריא.
But I'm hopeful that he was taken alive and well, and he will come back alive and well.
מאידך הרווחתי את הנכדות שלי ואת הכלה החמודה.
On the other hand, my granddaughters and my daughter-in-law were saved.
וכל הזמן חשבתי, פינו אותה, אבל איך היא תתמודד בטראומה שהיא עברה. חטפו את בעלה לנגד עיניה, וללכת עם 2 ילדות, אחת בת 6 חודשים, והשנייה בת 2 וחודשיים.
I always thought that they were evacuated, and my daughter-in-law, how would she cope after she saw her husband being kidnapped, and she's with two daughters. One of them is 6 months old, and the other one is 2 years old.
ביום ראשון ירדתי לעזור לה. היא צריכה שמישהו יחתל את הילדה הקטנה ולשחק עם הגדולה קצת ולהרגיע אותם בעין אבא.
On Sunday I went to the south to help them, and she needed someone to help change the diaper of the baby and play with the toddler when their father is away.
ההורים שלה הצליחו לברוח ביום שלישי משדרות.
Her parents escaped the city of Sderot on Tuesday.
אבל ביום שני ישבתי איתה ואמרתי לה שהקטע הזה בין החטיפה לרגע הזה אני לא יודע מה קרה. שהיא תשלים לי את התמונה פשוט.
And then I told her, I really don't know what happened since he was kidnapped till this moment. If she can tell me what happened.
ואז היא מספרת לי שבסביבות שעה 11 הגיעו 5 מחבלים עם ילד בן 17 שחטפו אותו מההורים שלו, תומר, ותומר אמר לו, עמרי, אני מבקש שתפתח את הדלת, אם לא, הם הורגים אותי.
And she told me that around 11 o'clock, 5 terrorists arrived at their home with a 17-year-old boy, teenager, that was kidnapped as well, Tomer. And this 17-year-old teenager told Omri, I'm asking you to open the door because if you don't, they will kill me.
עמרי פתח את הדלת ולקחו את כל המשפחה שלו אל השכן צחי.
Omri opened the door and the entire family was taken to the next door neighbor, Tzachi.
מה שאשתו והילדות שלו ראו שם, את הילדה בת ה-18 של צחי, ירויה שוכבת על הרצפה ומדממת.
What my daughter-in-law and the kids saw there in the next door neighbor is their 18-year-old daughter that was shot and she was bleeding on the floor.
הושיבו את שתי המשפחות על הרצפה.
They ordered both families to sit on the floor.
הגברים היו עם טריקו ותחתונים יחפים.
The men were with t-shirts and underwear, barefoot.
סליחה אם אני יורד לרזולוציות כאלה, אבל זה כל כך חשוב להגיד אותם.
I'm sorry that I'm taking this time to go into all those details, but it's very important for me to tell them.
ואנשים היו עם פיג'מות ויחפות.
And the women were with pajamas and barefoot.
ב-1:30 אמרו לו לבנים, לגברים, אתם באים איתנו או שאנחנו הורגים את כולם?
At 1:30 they told the men, you're either coming with us or we are killing all of you.
הגברים קמו ללכת איתם.
The men they stood up to go with them.
הילדה בת 2.5 רצה אחרי אבא שלה וצעקה, אבא, אבא, אבא שלי, אבא שלי.
And the 2.5-year-old granddaughter ran after her father and screamed, Father, Father, my father, my father.
האמא שלה הזיקה אותה ואמרה לה, עמרי, אני אוהבת אותך, אל תהיה גיבור, שמור על עצמך.
Her mother held her and told Omri, don't be a hero, take care of yourself.
ומאז אנחנו לא יודעים מה קרה עם עמרי. ואם אתם רואים אותי שאני הורדתי את כל הבגדים במקום הזה, הנמוך, ואני גם מגדל זקן מאותו יום, כי הבן שלי בטוח שהוא לא יתרחץ, בטוח שלא יתגלע, ובטוח שקר לו. אז אני הורדתי את כל הבגדים להזדהות.
Now you see me, I took off all my clothes and I'm growing a beard since that day because I know that my son is not bathing, is in tough conditions, and I'm trying to feel well.
אני חייב לציין שלבן שלי יש גם אזרחות נוספת, הונגרית, ואנחנו משתדלים גם במישור הזה לפעול שההונגרים, והם באמת עושים מאמצים לשחרר אותו ואת כל הנעדרים.
I want to mention that my son, as a second nationality, is also Hungarian, and we're working with the Hungarian government, and they are making an effort to release him along with all the other hostages.
ואם אני עומד במעמד כזה, שבאמת יש כל כך הרבה עיתונאים שאני יכול להגיד, ושוב, אני תמיד שואל שאלות את עצמי, אבל אני אגיד אותם בקול רם.
And in this situation where there are so many journalists, and I always ask myself questions, but I'll ask them out loud.
האם מישהו, מדינה מסוימת, ממשלה מסוימת, הייתה שותקת, עוברת לסדר היום, אחרי הפגזות כאלה במשך שנים ללא הפסקה?
Would anyone, would any country in the world would have done nothing and continue with its lives after those bombing for years and years non-stop?
ואם אנחנו כבר מדברים, בטוח שלרבים מכם יש כלבים, חתולים, אולי תוכים, ציפורים. כאשר חתולה ממליטה או כלבה או זאבה ביער, מישהו יכול להתקרב לגורים שלה?
I'm sure that many of you have animals, dogs, cats, parrots, birds. When a cat or a wolf in the woods give birth to its babies, can anyone get close to her puppies or the kittens?
ופה לקחו את הגור שלי.
They took my puppy.
והדבר דומה בעיניי, בכל אופן שאני מתעסק יותר עם החי, הצומח, לזאבה שהמליטה ביער, נמרה שהמליטה ביער.
And it's similar, since I work with animals and plants, this reminds me of a leopard that gave birth in the woods.
ומגיע זאב לחטוף את אחד מגוריה.
And a wolf comes trying to snatch one of their puppies, one of the siblings.
הנמרה מתנפלת על הזאב ומרסקת אותו.
The leopard will jump on the wolf and crash it.
ואז כל חיות היער באות להגיד לנמרה, מה עשית?
And the result is the rest of the animals in this woods will come with complaints to the leopard and ask, what have you done?
וזה מה שקורה לנו היום.
And that's what happened to us today.
לקחו את הגורים שלנו,
They took us to our
ואנחנו
puppies,
נאבקים על הגורים שלנו.
and we are fighting for the lives of our puppies.
עוד משהו, הייתם צריכים לשאול אותי שאלה.
There's another thing, you should have asked me a question.
יושבים פה הרבה אנשים חכמים.
There are many smart people here.
הרי אמרתי בתחילת דבריי שראיתי שהחמאסניקים הורגים כל דבר שבא דרכם.
I said when in the beginning of my presentation that I saw that the Hamas terrorists are killing everything and everyone they see.
אני אשאל במקומכם,
I'll ask it for you.
למה לא הרגו את כלתי ואת הילדים שלה?
Why didn't they kill my daughter-in-law and her kids?
למישהו יש תשובה?
Does anyone have an answer for that?
מוחמד, אולי לך? שפט מוחמד. אולי הוא יודע?
Maybe you know?
לא. אז אני אגיד לכם.
So I'll tell you.
באמנה של חמאס כתוב, סעיף אחד, להרוג כל יהודי באשר הוא יהודי. ילד, אישה, זקנה, זקן, בעלי חיים, להרוג כל דבר ולסוף כל דבר.
In Hamas convention, the first article states that you have to kill every Jew, whether it's a child, a man, a woman, a baby, anything, burn and kill anyone.
אבל בקוראן שאני מכבד אותו ומוקיר אותו,
But in the Quran, which I know and respect,
הנביא ציווה, הנביא מוחמד
the Prophet Muhammad ordered,
ציווה, כי תצא למלחמה,
when you go to a war,
לא תגדע עץ,
you wouldn't cut down a tree,
לא תהרוג אישה,
you wouldn't kill a woman,
לא תהרוג ילד קטן,
you wouldn't kill a baby,
לא נער,
not a teenager,
לא זקנה,
not an elderly,
לא זקן
not an elderly woman or
ולא
a
חולה.
man.
ואם תרצו, אני יכול לקרוא את זה מהקוראן, יש לי את זה בכיס.
If
אני
you
יכול
want me,
לקרוא
I
את זה
can read
בערבית.
it to you from the Quran itself. I have it right here with me.
תבדקו אותי ותראו שאכן כך. הקוראן הוא רחום, וזו לא דרכה של האסלאם, זה דרכו של חמאס, של דאעש, שרק כל דבר, ערף ראשים, ואנחנו שכחנו מזה. עם זה אנחנו מתמודדים עכשיו.
This is not the way of Islam. This is the way of Hamas, of ISIS. ISIS that chopped off heads of people that were alive. This is what we are facing today.
אני גר בגליל,
I live in the Galilee.
ובגליל יש הרבה יישובים ערביים,
There are many Arab communities in the Galilee.
והמון שנים עבדתי עם ערבים בשותפות, גידלנו דברים בשותפות, היינו בהרמוניה.
And for many years I worked with my Arab neighbors. We worked together. We lived in harmony.
וזה אני שואל מבית אבא שלי, סבא שלי.
And now this is part of the tradition for my father's and my grandfather's home.
הסבא שלי בעיראק גידל תמרים בשותפות עם ערבי.
My grandfather in Iraq grew dates with an Arab partner.
כאשר עזבנו את העיירה שלנו, הערבים בחור.
When we left our city,
מהפגע.
our Arab neighbors cried for us living.
לכן יש את כל הערכה לעם המוסלמי הערבי, אבל כשקמים גופי טרור כאלה, חמאס, דאעש, ג'יהאד כזה או אחר, זה נגד האנושות, נגד כל אחד מאיתנו.
I have all the admiration to the Arab and Muslim population, but when those kind of this kind of terror organization, like Hamas, are raising, this is what we have to fight.
ותודה רבה לכם שבאתם להביא את הדברים שלנו לעולם.
And thank you all for coming here and bringing our word to the world. Thank you, Danny. And now I call on Ayala Luzon Yalomi. Ayala.
I'm Ayala Yalomi Luzon, and I'm lots of things. I'm a wife of my beloved husband. I'm a mother of a 2-year-old kid, very cute. I'm a daughter of my loved mother. But since the 7th of October, I'm only and just the sister of Ohad Yalomi. My brother Ohad is kept in Gaza for almost 100 days. And I'm here to tell his and his family's story. On the 7th of October, Yalovi family heard sirens and lots of missiles going up to their house on Kibbutz Nir Oz. Unfortunately, they are used to get into the safe room at that time. They got into the safe room, and for a few hours they understood that something else is happening. In the meantime, they started to hear Arabic outside, calling Allah Akbar at Bachir El Yahud. At that time, my brother decided to go outside of the safe room and to protect his family from the outside. He was so afraid for them. In the meantime, 4 terrorists broke into his house and shot him on the limbs. After they shot him, they opened the safe room and get inside and saw there his wife, Batsheva, and their 3 children. For a few minutes, they were talking, and Batsheva asked Toad from the outside what they want. He said that they want to take them to Gaza. The 4 terrorists took Batsheva, Eitan, which is 12 years old, Yael, which is 10 years old, and a baby, only 1 year and 8 months old, outside of the safe room, while they are putting the guns on them to come with them to Gaza. When the family go outside, they saw Ohad on the floor, bleeding, very painful. It was very, very painful, but he was unconscious. And he got the chance to tell them that he loves them, and please do whatever they told you to do. Go with them to Gaza. That was the last eye contact that Ohad had with his family. At that time, Batsheva with her 2 daughters, the terrorists took Batsheva and the 2 daughters on one motorcycle, and Eitan, the 12-year-old boy, on another one. They started driving in Kibbutz Nir Oz for a very long minutes. They saw lots of bodies. They saw houses are burning. They saw catastrophe. Kibbutz Nir Oz is only 2 kilometers from Gaza Strip. They drove really fast. 200 meters from the strip, there were coming 2 tanks of the IDF that actually made the motorcycle of Batsheva and her 2 daughters to fall down. That was the time that Batsheva saw, for the last time on this period, her son. Her son got into Gaza Strip on a motorcycle. Around him, terrorists. And she saw a window of opportunities to escape with the 2 small girls. That was her choice. She had to make a choice. And she managed to escape with a pajama, with no shoes. 3.5 hours she ran in the fields back to Nir Oz with a baby on her hands and 10 years old daughter next side to her. After 3.5 hours, she got to the main road of the kibbutz. At that time, fortunately, the first bus of soldiers came, and they took her on the bus to a safe place. At that time, she's calling me. After I didn't get any sign of my family, of my brother's family, I got the sign. But Sheva called me and told me what happened. That Eitan was kidnapped and Ohad is injured and maybe worse than that. And from that moment, I'm trying to get people to come to the house to see what's about Ohad. To see if he surely needs help. At the evening, the forces came and Ohad wasn't there. In a few days, we got the message that Ohad was kidnapped. Ohad doesn't know. After 52 days on the negotiation that got the agreement, at the fourth time of the agreement, Eitan came back to us. You can just imagine how we were thrilled about it, but this was for a few days only, because we understand that it's really, really difficult. It's really, really we're waiting for Ohad to come back. And what breaks my heart, that Ohad doesn't know that his family is safe here in Israel. And he's over there in the tunnels, probably hungry, because all the witnesses says that there is no food. The coming back also lose weight, so probably my brother also. He's cold because he was with a boxer and a short shirt. And I don't know what else. I just know that I want to get back to my other life. I want to get to be so many things except being the young sister of Ohad. And this will be in just one way. Just bring him and all the hostages back home now. And my wish is actually to get to the 8th of October, because this is a very long day. Thank you.
Before we continue, Yuval had another thing he wanted to share with us.
I have something else to add. Today, South Africa accused Israel of a genocide. Now I want to show you how genocide looked like. Okay? This is my little sister's house. My sisters and 3 daughters and her husband were in the house while these unhuman terrorists set up the house. This was a method in Kibbutz Nir Oz. Many died like this. Many suffocated or burned alive. Last time we were burned alive, it was because we are Jews in Europe. This time, we got burned alive because we are Israelis. So this is genocide, okay?
Thank you. Thank you all. We have time for a few questions. If you have any, please raise your hand. Yes, go ahead. We have the microphone right here.
Thank you very much, and thank you for speaking to us and coming here. And I can't imagine the courage it takes and the composure to be able to speak to us. And we can't imagine what you're going through. Yuval spoke very eloquently about what South Africa is doing today. Can I ask any of the others how you feel seeing your own government in the World Court being charged with genocide over what's happening in Gaza?
מה זה רצח עם?
What's a genocide?
אני סיפרתי לכם על הנמרה והזאב.
I told you about the leopard and the wolf.
ואנחנו די חזקים במזרח התיכון. אנחנו נחשבים מעצמה גדולה, ויש לנו את הכוח לעמוד בכל התלאות, ומגיע ארגון קיקיוני של 30,000 חיילים להילחם בצבא אדיר כזה. מה רציתם שנעשה לו? נגיד לו, כנס? כמה פעמים הם יכולים להטריד אותנו בהפגזות, בהפצצות, בשריפת שדות שלנו, יערות, עצים שאנחנו נוטעים על מנת להוריק את העולם, לפזר חמצן קצת יותר בעולם, והם שורפים. אני אשאל עוד כמה דברים.
So I'll try to translate what it says. Israel is a power in the Middle East. We have a strong army and we can defend ourselves. There comes a terror organization, a small one, 30,000 terrorists, and try to attack us. What do you think we would do? Just tell him, come in, kill us, continue to bomb us, to burn our fields and our forests? And I'll ask a few more questions.
להזכיר לכם,
I want to remind you,
את המדינה שלנו אנחנו הקמנו על האפר של השואה לפני 75 שנה.
we have established our country, the ashes of the Holocaust 75 years ago.
והקמנו מדינה לתפארת של כל העמים.
And we have established a country, a state that is the proud of all nations.
אתם יודעים מה קורה אצל השכנים שלנו?
You know what happens with our neighbors.
בעזה הם הקימו מדינה מתחת לקרקע.
In Gaza they created a state underground.
של מנהרות,
Tunnels,
תחמושת, נשק,
ammunition, arms,
במקום להשקיע בעם שלהם.
instead of investing in their own
כל
people.
התרומות שהם קיבלו מכל העולם הושקע מתחת לקרקע, לא מעל הקרקע.
All the donation that they received from around the world was invested in the underground and not over the ground.
מה שהם עשו לעם שלהם זה הרג עם והרס עם.
What they have done to their own people is a genocide and the destruction of their own people.
ישראל היום מונה 10 מיליון תושבים.
In Israel today there are about 10 million inhabitants.
2 מיליון מוסלמים
2 million,
שחיים באושר ובאושר בישראל.
2 million of them are Muslims that live.
אין אחד מהם שמוכן לחיות במדינה מוסלמית אחרת. גם אם נשלם לכל אחד למכור את הבית, ניתן לו 10 מיליון דולר, הוא לא עוזב את ישראל, כי טוב לו בישראל.
None of them want to live in an Arab or Muslim country. Even if we'll offer them millions of dollars, they won't live to another country.
זה
They want to
נקרא,
live in Israel.
זה נקרא ג'נוסייד?
Is this what you call a genocide?
יתרה מכך, אמרתי שאנחנו 8 מיליון יהודים.
Moreover, I said that we are about 8 million Jews.
אתם יודעים כמה פרסי נובל המדינה הזאת הביאה לעולם לכל אחד מכם?
Know how many Nobel Prizes Israel received?
מישהו מכם עבר צנתור?
Okay. Did anyone here have an angioplastic surgery?
יש כאלה פה?
Anyone?
אם אתם לא, אני כן.
I did. I was.
והסטנט שיש לי פה, ולכל מנותחי הלב בעולם, זה המצאה ישראלית.
This operation based on an Israeli invasion.
כולכם נוהגים, משתמשים בווייז, המצאה ישראלית.
All of you, when you drive and you use the Waze or GPS, this is an Israeli innovation.
לכל אחד מכם יש דיסק-און-קי, המצאה ישראלית.
The pen drive or disc on key is an Israeli innovation.
היום אתם אוכלים עגבניות שרי, המצאה ישראלית.
Even the cherry tomato is an Israeli innovation.
כל העולם הנכשל מבחינה חקלאית על מנת לצמצם את המים משתמש בטפטפות, המצאה ישראלית.
Entire third world that's in order to use less water is using drip irrigation, which is also an Israeli invention.
אני הגעתי פליט בן 5.5 במדינת ישראל.
I arrived in Israel as a refugee at the age of 5 years old.
מדינת ישראל, זאת אומרת, אני הגעתי פליט בעצם.
I was actually a
כמו הרבה
refugee,
אחרים.
like many other Israelis.
וכולם קיבלו חינוך,
And all of them received
נבנו
education,
בתים, נבנו בתי ספר, אוניברסיטאות.
schools, universities.
כל המעבדות, מכון ויצמן שתורם לכל העולם. מה קורה בארצות ערב? שאלתם את עצמכם פעם?
What's the reality in the Arab world? Did you ever stop and
And-
ask yourself?
תבדקו אותי. הן נוטלות רצח, מלחמות, פיצוצים, טרור. זה מה שיש במדינות האלה. מה אתם רוצים איתנו עכשיו?
You see murder, violence, terrorism. This is the reality in those countries. Why I don't understand what they want of us now.
תחשבו.
Just think about it.
אני עוד... תחשבו. תנסו ואתם, מסקרים את כל האירועים בעולם.
When you look at everything that happened around the world,
תגידו לי אירוע אחד, אחרי שבאנגליה נגמרו הפיצוצים עם הסקוטים וזהו, שזה לא מוסלמי, שזה לא ערבי, שזה לא טרוריסטי. אתם
show
יכולים
me
להגיד?
one place around the world that terrorism is not related to Muslims.
העולם צריך לקום ולהיאבק בטרוריזם הזה. אנחנו עושים את העבודה במקום העולם. תודה רבה.
The world should fight this kind of terrorism, and we are doing this job for the world. Any other question?
I have one question for you, if I may.
Yes.
Yeah, because tomorrow, of course, is the legal proceedings will recommence, and it's Israel's verdict. Why did you go in the first place if you say that it's baseless and shameful the accusations made by South Africa?
First of all, because we have to defend ourselves. We consider the ICJ with great respect. We are confident that the ICJ will decide, see the real reality that's going on. And I think that I may add, after we heard all of the family members of the hostages, and after more than 3 hours that we sat today in the court, hearing those false accusations, and sometimes even lies. There was not even one word said about their family members. Not even one. They talked in a brief sentence about the October 7 massacre. They carried on to talk about Israel. They talked about the suffering in Gaza. And they never stopped to mention, even in one word, that there are 136 Israelis that are still held captive in Gaza by terrorists. This is a humanitarian catastrophe, almost 100 days. This is a war crime and a crime against humanity. And it should be mentioned. And this is when we say that South Africa is becoming the legal arm of the terror organization Hamas. This is exactly for that. They are representing a terror organization and asking for this court to give the terror organization exactly what they want. A ceasefire. Now, without the release of the hostages, without returning the family members of the people who are standing with me here. Because when you ask for a ceasefire, you are taking us all back to October 6th. October 6th was a ceasefire. It was a peaceful day in the south of Israel. We had no idea what we were expected to see the next day. If we call on a ceasefire today, we will continue to live on October 6th until the next October 7th. Because Hamas leadership has stated publicly that their goal is to repeat the October 7 massacre over and over and over again. This is actually by calling for a ceasefire now what you're asking. You want to give Hamas the opportunity to kill more Jews and more Jews and more Jews. The only solution should be the elimination of Hamas from the Gaza Strip, the return of each and every one of the hostages, and a change of the reality in the Gaza Strip so it will never be a threat to Israelis in the future. I think the microphone just went dead. We have time for one last question. Yes, go ahead. Can anyone see if this microphone works? Yes. Thank you.
You just brought up the issue also of a ceasefire. Now some of the relatives also of the people who have been taken hostage were actually in favor of a ceasefire because it might be helpful for the release of the hostages. Could I ask the relatives of the hostages what they think of this ceasefire? Would it not be helpful also to them?
Michael.
We're in favor of everything that can bring them back. We are in favor of everything that can bring them back, but the reality...
Can you get the second microphone? Go ahead, speak with them.
But the reality is that without putting the pressure on Hamas, they will not release anyone. So we ask the world, the media, and everyone in the world to put more pressure on Hamas and Qatar and help to release our loved ones. And then we all can live in peace. And maybe we all have a better future.
Thank you, Michael. And I want to thank again the family members I know it's hard for you to tell your story again and again. And I think everyone here join me in the prayer that we all be together with your family members as soon as possible. Thank you all for coming, and good night.
Leo's the, yeah. Try and get Yuval.
Yeah.
Yeah.